Welcome back to the deep dive. Wow, okay. So for the past 10 parts now, we've really been swimming in the deep end of attachment theory. It's been quite a journey.
It really has a huge amount of ground covered.
Absolutely. We started way back with John Bowlby, his foundational insights about attachment being this core evolutionary drive for survival,
Yeah,
basically.
for protection,
Yeah.
and how that shapes our internal working models, those IWMs, are sort of mental blueprints for relationships.
Exactly. And then Mary Ainsworth's work, The Strange Situation, which was just pivotal, it let us actually see those different infant patterns, secure, avoidant, resistant.
And later disorganized, of course, highlighting how crucial caregiver sensitivity is and
Yeah.
really underlining that attachment is inherently dyadic. It's always that dance between two people.
That dance, yeah. And we talked about how those early IWMs, those patterns, they don't just stay in infancy, do they? They influence our adult relationships, our mental health, things like depression, anxiety, even loneliness.
Yeah, and relationship status, too. And often viewed dimensionally now, things like discomfort with closeness or maybe a strong need for approval.
We also touched on the whole intergenerational transmission thing, how patterns can kind of pass down, although the evidence is, well, it's nuanced, isn't it? Not simple inheritance. There's that transmission gap, particularly for sensitivity.
Exactly, it's not deterministic,
Mm.
which leads to the dynamic nature of it all. These patterns aren't rigidly fixed from infancy.
Right. There's evidence for maybe modest long-term stability, but also significant shifts are possible. Things like major life events, changes in caregiving.
Or just development itself. The balance between genetic and environmental influences changes over time. Like, shared environment seems dominant in infancy, but genetic influence appears to grow stronger in adolescence.
And all of that background brought us, in the last couple of parts, to an introduction to Dr. Patricia Crittenden's dynamic maturational model, the DMM. And we started to see how it reinterprets and really expands on this foundational work.
That's right. And that's our mission today. For you listening, we want to pull all those threads together to really synthesize this current landscape of attachment theory.
Okay.
The goal is to get a deep understanding of how the DMM fundamentally reinterprets and expands upon that mainstream tradition, Bowlby, Ainsworth, Maine, highlighting where they converge, where they complement each other.
To get hopefully a cohesive and, well, a deeply nuanced view of human adaptation and connection.
That's the plan.
Okay. So to really dive into the DMM, where do we start? You mentioned it reinterprets things fundamentally.
I think we have to start with what's probably its most radical and foundational shift, which is recentering the whole purpose of attachment squarely on danger.
On danger, not security. Because usually we talk about attachment and security in the same breath.
Exactly. The DMM posits that attachment's core purpose isn't just about achieving security. It's actually, and more profoundly, about surviving danger.
Surviving danger, okay.
Yeah, it's a deliberately stark perspective. Dr. Crittenden puts it very directly, very provocatively. She says, quote, "Attachment is not about security. It is about surviving danger."
Wow.
And she continues, "Everybody survives security. No trick to it. The patently crazy survive it."
Okay, that definitely grabs your attention. It forces you to immediately question that basic assumption that security is the main goal, or maybe the only healthy goal, of the attachment system.
It really does. She's quite critical of what she perceives as a tendency, especially in a lot of mainstream American attachment theory, to have, in her words, fallen in love with security and dumped everything else in the bad category.
Meaning things like avoidant or resistant patterns were just seen as bad, as failures.
Pretty much. Often viewed as deficits, dysfunctions, or simply failures of the system.
Yeah.
But from her perspective, this misses something crucial. It overlooks the powerful, often, well, ingenious adaptive functions these very behaviors serve in certain contexts.
So wait, the core insight here is that every behavior, even the ones we might label insecure or, problematic, is actually, at its root, an ingenious strategy for survival.
Precisely. That's the fundamental reframe. It moves us beyond just judging the behavior to trying to understand its deep-seated protective logic. Why did this make sense for this person in their world?
And she sees this as connecting back to Bowlby, not throwing him out.
Absolutely. Crittenden views her work as being deeply aligned with Bowlby's original intention. You have to remember where Bowlby started. His foundational work came from observing kids facing real serious threats.
Right, like the kids evacuated during the Blitz in London separated from parents.
Exactly. Or his work with juvenile delinquents, where he often traced their issues back to early separations, loss, real danger. For Bowlby, the fundamental function of attachment was protection from danger.
So Crittenden isn't necessarily proposing something brand new, but maybe bringing that original, starker focus back to the center.
That's a great way to put it. She's bringing that original danger-focused core back to the forefront. And from that viewpoint, she insists that all behaviors, even the ones traditionally seen as maladaptive, are potentially ingenious. They're highly adaptive, self-protective responses developed for very specific, often dangerous contexts.
Ingenious. She even calls them stunningly competent adaptations, right, to really difficult situations.
She does, which really underscores the DMM's heavy emphasis on context specificity.
Yeah.
Adaptation in this model always means fitting into a particular environment. It's about this family, this culture, with these specific challenges.
So it highlights this innate human capacity, even right from infancy, to figure out, okay, what works here? What do I need to do in this specific situation to keep myself safe? It's not about some universal ideal behavior.
Not at all. It's about survival tailored to circumstances. The human brain, even super early on, is incredibly attuned to its environment. It's constantly assessing, maybe not consciously, what kind of information is useful in this world? What signals danger here? What helps me get protected here?
Which logically leads us straight into the DMM's focus on information processing then. If survival in the face of danger is the goal,
then the core mechanism has to be how the mind processes, interprets, and crucially transforms information to predict and navigate that danger.
Ah, okay. So behavior, what we see on the outside.
That's just output, in her view. It's the result of this underlying internal process of organizing information.
Which means, for clinicians, the main target for change isn't just the behavior itself, the symptom.
Right. It's about shifting how the mind is organizing all that incoming data. Changing the internal calculus of safety and threat. How information is being perceived, weighted, and used.
Okay, so how does the mind process information according to the DMM? What are the key types it relies on to build these survival strategies?
The DMM highlights 3 core types of information the brain uses. First, there's somatic information. This is the raw visceral data coming directly from the body.
Like gut feelings, shaky hands.
Exactly. That immediate gut feeling, the sudden jolt of adrenaline, shaky hands, a racing heart, or just a general feeling of being keyed up, tense. Or maybe the opposite, feeling profoundly shut down, numb.
It can even include deeper physical senses, right? Like an embodied feeling of hope or maybe hopelessness?
Yes, those deeper, more pervasive bodily states too.
Yeah.
It's all the information coming directly from our physical selves.
And the somatic information is really powerful.
Hugely powerful. This leads to a really crucial clinical insight from Crittenden. She argues that strong somatic information will override everything else.
Override everything, like thinking clearly.
Yes. If someone is experiencing overwhelming bodily signals, maybe intense physical pain, extreme panic, that dissociative numbness, or just chronic pervasive distress, that intense physical input essentially floods the system.
Okay.
It blocks clear thinking. It prevents the integration of other types of information. That somatic data can become the dominant, almost the only source of information the brain attends to.
Wow, that has massive implications for therapy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Think about the example of using Tai Chi for fibromyalgia, which we touched on before. Fibromyalgia often involves chronic pain, high internal arousal, pervasive distress. Basically, an overwhelming flood of negative somatic information.
Right.
Tai Chi, with its focus on gentle movement, breath, mindfulness, helps to lower and regulate that overwhelming internal arousal. It brings those intense somatic signals down into a more manageable range.
So the person can then actually access other coping methods or think more clearly.
Exactly. It creates space. Contrast that with, say, high-intensity aerobic exercise. For someone already in that somatic override state, more intense physical arousal might actually worsen things, increase the override, make them feel even more overwhelmed and disconnected.
So the goal isn't to ignore the body, but to regulate it so other information systems can come back online.
Precisely. You need to manage the somatic flood before cognitive or other strategies can be effective.
Okay, so somatic information is this powerful foundational layer. What's the second core type the brain uses?
The second is cognitive information. This is basically learning through action and consequences. Crittenden calls it direct behavioral learning.
So Simple cause and effect. If I do X, Y happens.
Pretty much. Individuals learn to organize their behavior based on the specific results they get in their environment. A child learns, maybe, that crying consistently brings comfort, so crying becomes their go-to strategy when distressed.
Or, conversely, if being quiet avoids punishment.
Right. If being quiet, unseen, unnoticed helps them avoid something harsh or unpredictable, they learn to suppress their vocalizations, become quiet, maybe hypervigilant. It's very direct, tangible learning based on concrete experiences.
Okay, that's straightforward enough. Practical learning, what's the third type?
The third is effective information. This is processed mainly by the limbic system, or emotional brain centers, designed for rapid responses.
So more primitive, faster reactions.
Yes, it's triggered by intense contextual stimuli. Things like a sudden loud noise, a blinding flash of light, deep darkness, abrupt movements. These things generate an immediate, almost precognitive emotional reaction.
Like that instant jump feeling.
Exactly. A powerful gut feeling that signals immediate danger or maybe immediate safety if the stimuli are moderate and pleasant. It's a rapid, intuitive assessment of the environment's threat level, often happening before conscious thought fully kicks in, based on strong sensory input.
Okay, so we have somatic body data, cognitive cause and effect learning, and effective immediate emotional reactions to stimuli. But how does a baby with a brand new brain learn what all these signals actually mean? Especially the internal somatic ones, which can be ambiguous, or external cues that might even be misleading. It sounds incredibly complex.
It is complex, and this is a cornerstone of the DMM's developmental view. Crittenden asserts that the infant learns the meaning of these forms of information: somatic, cognitive, affective, primarily through interactions with their parent or primary caregiver.
The parent acts as the interpreter.
Essentially, yes. The parent acts as the child's primary interpreter of reality, especially in those crucial early years.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine an infant feels some mild internal distress, maybe a little gas bubble, and they whimper slightly. Now, if the parent reacts with intense anxiety, becomes frantic, overresponds with alarm.
The baby picks up on that alarm.
Absolutely. The infant learns a powerful and potentially distorting lesson. Wow, this tiny feeling inside me must be really important, maybe even dangerous, if it causes such a huge panicked reaction in my caregiver. The parent's exaggerated reaction amplifies the perceived meaning and significance of the child's internal state.
So the parent's reaction basically becomes the lens through which the child learns to interpret their own internal world and the outside world too. And the opposite would also be true if the parent dismisses the distress.
Precisely. If a parent consistently dismisses, ignores, or even punishes a baby's distress signals, maybe saying, "Oh, you're fine," or getting angry when the child cries, the child learns a different lesson.
Like, my feelings don't matter, or showing distress is bad.
Exactly. They might learn to suppress those somatic signals, effectively tuning out their own body's warnings. Or maybe they learn they have to use really exaggerated affective displays, huge tantrums, or very specific cognitive strategies like being overly compliant, just to finally get a response.
So this ongoing parental response, how they interpret and react to the child's cues, is fundamentally sculpting the child's developing information processing style.
Yes. The child adapts by learning which signals get a response, which ones are ignored, which ones are punished, which ones need to be exaggerated. It shapes their whole internal system for navigating the world.
That makes so much sense. The parent provides the initial rule book for decoding reality. And this leads us right into another really powerful DMM concept: information transformation. What does that mean? Because like you said, things aren't always what they seem.
This is where it gets really intricate, and sometimes, well, quite unsettling. Crittenden explains that, quote, "Not all information predicts what it appears to predict. Raw data, surface appearances, can be profoundly deceiving, especially in dangerous or unpredictable environments.
Okay.
Therefore, the brain has to learn how to transform this raw information. It needs to filter it, interpret it, put it in context so that it accurately predicts danger and helps organize effective protection."
Can you give examples of this transformation?
Sure. She gives examples like, you can feel high physiological arousal, like your heart pounding, but there's actually no external threat. Maybe it's excitement, not fear. A room can be pitch black, but completely safe. Or, and this is a really critical and often painful one, your mother might be smiling and she is angry.
Ah. The surface signal, the smile, doesn't match the underlying reality, the anger. It's misleading.
Exactly. The raw information itself, the arousal, the darkness, the smile, isn't always a reliable predictor of safety or danger in that specific environment. So the brain learns it has to transform it, filter it, interpret it, contextualize it.
To get to the real meaning.
Yes, to more accurately predict danger and organize protection. And infants, remarkably, start learning these complex, often counterintuitive rules for decoding reality incredibly early, sometimes even in the first month.
Wow.
They might learn, for instance, don't trust mom's smile, if that smile is consistently paired with harsh handling or angry tones or unpredictable neglect. Or they learn to ignore what their body tells them if their somatic complaints are always dismissed or punished.
So it's a fundamental recalibration of what signals actually mean in their specific world. It's about surviving when direct signals might be unreliable or even dangerous to believe.
Precisely. It's like the child's brain is learning a personalized, often deeply coded language for their specific environment, trying to decipher the true meaning behind the surface noise.
And this ability to transform information, does it become more sophisticated as we grow up? As our brains mature?
Absolutely. This developmental progression is central to the maturational part of DMM. Infant brains use relatively simple information and organize simpler strategies. Their transformations are basic, but functional for their stage immediate survival.
But as they get older.
As they grow, and those neural networks develop through genetically programmed maturation, which continues, by the way, up to around age 35, according to Crittenden, more mature brains transform information in more ways.
Okay.
This expanded neurological capacity allows for more sophisticated predictions and the organization of more elegant protective behavior. Strategies become more complex, more layered, more nuanced. They can integrate more types of information, use more sophisticated transformations as cognitive abilities develop.
So it's not a static system set in infancy. It's a lifelong refinement process, adapting to an increasingly complex reality.
Exactly. A more mature brain can handle more ambiguity, discern subtler cues, make more flexible decisions, moving beyond those simple, rigid infant responses.
This whole focus on information processing, how it develops, and especially the parent's role in interpreting it, it really hammers home something we've mentioned before, and that the DMM really champions. Attachment is fundamentally dyadic. It's about the interaction.
It's absolutely central, a non-negotiable pillar of the DMM framework. Crittenden defines attachment explicitly as a dyadic characteristic. It always connects an attachment figure with an attached person. You can't have one without the other in this view.
It's the process between two people.
Yes. She stresses it's the process between two people that makes the younger, weaker, more vulnerable one more safe and comfortable when there is threat. She offers a thoughtful, sometimes sharp critique of what she sees as a tendency in some areas of attachment theory to maybe inadvertently treat attachment almost like an individual characteristic, a personality trait.
Forgetting the ongoing relational process it comes from.
Exactly, forgetting the context. She points out that Mary Ainsworth's original work meticulously emphasized dyads. Ainsworth always looked at the interaction, the dance, not just the child in isolation.
That dance metaphor feels so right. And the DMM extends this idea of developmental change way beyond infancy, doesn't it? How does it map out how these strategies evolve across the entire lifespan?
Yes, this is a major expansion. The DMM argues that Ainsworth's original ABC patterns, while revolutionary for infants, are just not sufficient to describe attachment across the whole lifespan.
Why not?
Because of the dramatic, genetically programmed neurological change that happens after infancy. Crittenden explains that the infant brain is going to go through several periods of neurological change that are genetically programmed, unfolding over time, right up to about age 35.
So these maturational leaps allow for more complex strategies at different ages.
Precisely. Think about the huge cognitive, emotional, social differences between a preschooler, a school-aged child, an adolescent, and a fully mature adult. Each stage brings new capacities that allow for more sophisticated, layered, nuanced ways of adapting and protecting oneself, integrating increasingly complex information.
And parents or caregivers, they continue to play a role in this ongoing story. It's not all done and dusted in the first few years.
Absolutely not. The dyadic interaction remains crucial, though how it looks changes. Crittenden emphasizes parents continue shaping these strategies, not just through direct protection and comfort, but crucially through the meanings they assign to information.
Still modeling how to interpret those somatic, cognitive, affective signals.
Yes. Their ongoing behaviors, responses, interpretations continue to profoundly shape and refine the child's, adolescent's, even young adult's self-protective strategies long after infancy. It's that ever-evolving interactive dance that doesn't just stop at age 3. It continues through the whole maturational period, influencing the complexity and flexibility of the person's adaptive toolkit.
Okay, this feels like a good point to bring in something truly unique about the DMM, stemming from Dr. Crittenden's incredible global experience.
Hmm.
You mentioned she classified something like 10,000 adult attachment interviews from 20 different countries and really immersed herself in different cultures. What did that reveal?
That extensive global work is, yeah, foundational to the DMM's unique and often challenging perspective. After meticulously analyzing this huge, diverse data set and really immersing herself in various cultures, she came to a striking conclusion
Which was?
that the strategy that is dominant in each culture represents the best solution to the problems that historically these people have experienced.
Wow. So what looks maladaptive in one culture?
Might actually be the key to survival in another. This is a radical reframe of maladaptation. It means adaptation in the DMM is inherently about fitting into specific contexts that vary immensely in the type and severity of danger people face.
Mm-hmm.
It is therefore radically context dependent.
So there's no single universally best attachment strategy.
Not according to the DMM. What works for survival in one environment might be detrimental in another, and vice versa. It's about strategies being ingeniously adapted to specific local dangers.
And this cultural lens leads her to critique some basic assumptions she sees in Western psychology. What's the issue there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She argues that a lot of Western psychology, particularly American attachment theory, and also psychiatric diagnostic systems like the DSM, tend to implicitly assume a safe environment as the baseline, the default setting.
And she sees that as atypical.
Profoundly atypical from both a historical and a global perspective. Her point is stark. The normal environment has danger in it, and you need to adapt to that. She suggests that the post-World War II era in many Western democracies has been a kind of anomaly of relative safety. It inadvertently created a psychological bubble that has shaped our theories and interventions. We've maybe forgotten what adaptation to real pervasive danger looks like.
That's a challenging thought. And yet, paradoxically, for those of us living in these relatively safe Western societies, we seem almost obsessed with danger, don't we? News, entertainment.
She finds that fascinating too. Our news media is often filled with danger. She suggests people in safe societies almost crave information about danger. Why? Because we live so safely and we know there has to be danger out there, and our brains are evolved to hunt for it.
So it's a kind of mismatch between our evolved psychology, primed for threat detection, and our current relatively safe context.
That's her hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
We're sort of hardwired for danger detection.
Yeah.
Even when it's not immediately pressing in our personal lives, it creates this perpetual readiness, maybe looking for threats even when they aren't there.
Interesting. And connecting societal factors to protection, she also mentions some observations about family structure, specifically what she terms politically incorrect data about marriage. Can you unpack that carefully? How does it relate to protection?
Yes, and it's important here to be clear, we're reporting on her observations based on research data she cites. She discusses what she terms politically incorrect data regarding family stability and formal marriage.
Okay.
What she observes, based on this data, is a reported huge difference in family stability, maybe a factor of 7 or 8 times. Difference in children's security outcomes when parents are formally married compared to cohabiting.
That's a significant reported difference, and her interpretation.
Her interpretation links this directly to the public commitment inherent in formal marriage. She suggests this public commitment provides a kind of social scaffolding, creating a more stable protective structure around the family unit.
A structure that might buffer against external stressors.
That's her reasoning. She highlights that this structure seems particularly vital as a protective factor out of the middle class, where external stressors might be higher or resources fewer, making such structural stability potentially even more critical as a protective factor against danger for children.
So, regardless of the specific cultural context or family setup, the core DMM idea is that individuals are always adapting, using cultural knowledge, leveraging societal structures alongside their direct experience to figure out what offers the most reliable protection in their specific context.
Exactly. It's always about adapting to find safety within your unique circumstances using all available resources, including social structures.
This is an incredible amount of theoretical background. So rich, so expansive. Okay, let's really dive into the heart of it now. The actual DMM patterns across the lifespan. You mentioned a visual model, like a half circle, B at the top, A strategies right, C strategies left, AC in the middle, with colors too. Blue for A, green for Sue.
Yes, that visual model is incredibly helpful. It lays out the strategies along continua. In infancy, the DMM builds right on Ainsworth's A, B, C, and D patterns, but it immediately emphasizes the underlying information processing styles driving those behaviors.
So A, B, C aren't just behaviors, but ways of prioritizing information.
Right. Each highlights different kinds of information, somatic, cognitive, affective, that the infant brain is prioritizing to organize its response to danger and bids for safety. Even the D pattern, disorganization, is viewed through this lens maybe as a failure to integrate conflicting information or relying on contradictory strategies simultaneously.
Okay. Moving into preschool. Ainsworth didn't have a specific assessment here, creating those gray boxes, as Crittenden calls them. Later work suggested infant D could become controlling patterns, but the DMM maps this out more systematically.
Yes, it fills in those conceptual gray boxes with clear preschool strategies reflecting growing cognitive abilities. On the A side, the blue side, A strategies evolve from basic avoidance into more complex, often compulsive, self-protective behaviors. Preschoolers, this mainly means compulsive caregiving, A3, and compulsive compliant, A4.
Compulsive caregiving, compulsive compliant, those sound quite intense for preschoolers. What do they actually look like, and how do they protect the child?
They are intense. A child showing compulsive caregiving A3 essentially takes on a parent-like role. They might try to comfort a parent who seems depressed, withdrawn, or just preoccupied and unable to consistently meet the child's needs.
So the child tries to manage the parent's emotions?
Unconsciously, yes. The internal logic is something like, Mom seems sad or unavailable. I need her attention for my safety. So I'll comfort her, I'll be super good, cheer her up, and definitely won't bother her with my own upset feelings because that might push her away.
So they maintain connection by managing the parent, but at the cost of suppressing their own negative feelings.
Exactly. It's a profound self-negation aimed at preserving the relationship and perceived safety.
And the compulsive compliance strategy, A4, how does that work?
The compulsive compliant child is characterized by excessive, almost preemptive obedience. They try to anticipate needs, do exactly what the parent wants, often before being asked.
Why? What drives that?
It typically comes from experiences where they've learned there are severe, maybe harsh or unpredictable consequences for not conforming. Minor mistakes might lead to big punishments or sudden withdrawal of affection.
But compliance becomes a preemptive strike against danger.
Precisely. A desperate attempt to ensure safety and connection by never stepping out of line. They become hyper-attuned to parental expectations to avoid potential harm. Vigilant, self-sacrificing obedience.
So for both A3 and A4, the core process seems to be sacrificing awareness of their own internal world needs, feelings to focus on the parent's perspective, trying to make the relationship safer, even if it costs them internally.
That's exactly it. Sacrificing their authentic internal experience for relational stability. And this is where Crittenden identifies a critical, often tragically missed, danger signal with these A-strategy kids, false positive effect.
False positive effect, smiling when they're not happy.
Exactly. She says these children learn to smile when it hurts, learn to smile when they feel like crying. They are deliberately, though maybe not consciously, misleading others by inhibiting their true negative feelings and putting on a cheerful front.
That sounds dangerous if people misread it.
Terribly dangerous. Crittenden shares a harrowing observation from her extensive clinical and forensic work. She states, almost every case of child death that I have analyzed has had a child who is called smiley or sunshine or sweetness by the adults around them because it consistently showed this false positive effect.
Oh my God.
She even recounted a chilling example, a child who skipped down the halls of the hospital with all 128 active injuries on her body, and she's smiling and skipping.
That's horrifying. A child in that much pain, smiling and skipping, it's hard to comprehend.
It forces us to confront how children adapt to unimaginable pain. And her stark warning, really for everyone working with kids, is this. When the context is negative and the child is smiling or laughing or kissing, be worried.
More worried than the angry acting out child.
Be much more worried than the angry acting out child. He's showing you there's a problem. That false positive affect is a critical, often unrecognized danger signal. The smile is a shield, masking deep distress, neglect, even severe abuse. It's a desperate survival strategy. Don't signal distress to the person causing it or unable to respond to it.
That is a vital, chilling warning. It forces us to look beyond the surface. Okay, what about the other side in preschool? The C strategies, the green ones.
Right. On the C side, we see strategies that are often more extreme, overt, maybe aggressive. For preschoolers, this includes aggressive, C3, and feigned helpless, C4.
Okay, aggressive C3. That seems straightforward. Hitting, kicking, shouting.
Yes, overt displays of anger and defiance.
Mhm.
But, and this is absolutely crucial for intervention, they are meticulously hiding deep-seated fearfulness underneath.
Hiding fear under the anger.
Yes. So the fundamental clinical pearl is you should not be treating his anger, you should be treating his hidden fearfulness. If you just focus on managing the aggression, you miss the core problem, overwhelming unacknowledged fear.
So the aggression is a defense, a posture against terrifying fear, an attempt to control a scary world.
Exactly. It's a cover for the deeper, more vulnerable emotion that feels too dangerous to show.
And feign helpless. C4, what does that look like? Pretending to be incompetent.
Yes, an exaggerated display of incompetence. Oh, I can't do it. Often in a high-pitched, whiny voice. Maybe frequent stumbling, appearing clumsy, making minor hurts seem dramatic, actively pretending incompetence to elicit care or attention.
But what are they hiding underneath that?
Underneath the helpless facade, they are hiding intense, often suppressed anger or fury.
Anger under the helplessness, so it's the opposite of the aggressive pattern hiding fear.
Exactly. And the clinical pearl mirrors the C3 one. If you work on the feigned helplessness and do not address the inhibited rage fury, you won't find the problem. Both the aggressive display and the feigned helplessness are smokescreens for a hidden, opposite, overwhelming emotion.
So for both C3 and C4, it's about seeing the hidden opposite of what's presented. What's the underlying process connecting them? You mentioned splitting earlier. How does that work here and link to the A strategies too?
Splitting is the absolute key concept. Both A and C strategies involve fundamentally splitting information or affect to manage overwhelming or contradictory experiences, usually around safety and danger.
How does it differ between A and C?
In A strategies, the person primarily splits their own self off from the other. They become hyper-focused on the parent's perspective, sacrificing awareness of their own needs and feelings to preserve the external relationship, compartmentalizing their internal world.
Okay, denying their subjective reality for relational safety.
Right. C strategies, conversely, primarily involve splitting their negative effect, keeping opposing powerful feelings rigidly separated, showing vulnerability while hiding anger, C4, or showing aggression while hiding fear, C3.
So they compartmentalize their emotions.
Yes. Crittenden notes extreme C-types often alternate these displays, but maybe in a skewed way, 90% aggression, 10% fear, making it hard to see the whole picture. So clinicians need to actively look for the part that isn't readily visible, the hidden opposite emotion, to understand what's driving the behavior. It's a psychological compartmentalization, a brilliant but limiting way to manage overwhelming data and feelings for survival.
Okay, let's move into the school years now. Again, the traditional ABCD model lacked specific assessments here, another gray box area, but the DMM maps out more complex patterns reflecting the cognitive growth and social interactions of school-aged kids. How do their strategies evolve?
Right. As kids enter school, their cognitive abilities expand significantly. More complex reasoning, social understanding. On the C side, the green side, two new, more complex strategies emerge reflecting this growth. Punitive, C5, and seductive, C6.
Punitive and seductive. Those sound like very deliberate, intricate social strategies for a school-aged child. What do they actually look like, and how do they function for survival?
A punitive C5 child becomes obsessed with revenge. This isn't just fleeting anger. It's an intense, pervasive focus on getting even for perceived wrongs.
An obsession with revenge. That sounds consuming.
It is. It dramatically narrows their mental world, blocking other information or perspectives. And they often employ false cognition, active deception, intentional misleading others about feelings, intentions, even events. Getting even, often through manipulation, becomes the main strategy for dealing with threats or injustices. It's proactive, aggressive, but often hidden self-protection.
A calculated, strategic way to control their environment through payback and deception, and the seductive C6 pattern.
The seductive C6 child is obsessed with rescue. Now, this isn't necessarily sexual at this age. It's a compelling drive to subtly or overtly charm, manipulate, or pull people into rescuing them.
How do they do that?
They learn to be highly captivating, drawing others in, often through displays of vulnerability or appealing helplessness. They create a dynamic where others feel compelled to save them.
But there's a downside.
A huge one. In this intense drive to get rescued, they lose crucial self-protection information. They might put themselves in risky situations, implicitly trusting someone else will always step in and save them. They externalize their safety entirely, placing it in others' hands, which, paradoxically, puts them at greater risk.
And a critical point for both C5 and C6, and really most childhood strategies, Crittenden emphasizes they are almost always learned at home. They were adaptations that worked within the family system to manage danger or get needs met, however imperfectly.
Exactly, which means trying to treat only the child in therapy is often unsuccessful without significant parental involvement and profound changes in the family dynamics that shaped and maintained the strategy. The family is the context.
So family involvement isn't just helpful, it's often essential. What's the therapeutic approach then for these school-aged kids still embedded in that context? If the behavior is still protective at home, you can't just try to stop it, right?
That's exactly the challenge. Crittenden suggests school-aged kids are capable of concrete reflective thinking. They can grasp basic cause and effect in their immediate world, even if abstract systemic thinking is beyond them.
So the goal isn't immediate behavioral change.
Often not, especially if the behavior is still needed at home. Instead, it's about helping them contextualize the strategy. A therapist might gently help the child see, okay, this strategy of getting revenge, C5, it maybe works with mom when she's angry, it protects you. But wow, it really gets you into trouble at school, doesn't it? Different outcomes in different places.
Helping them differentiate contexts. This works here, causes problems there.
Exactly. The aim is to keep the door to a new strategy open. Plant seeds for alternatives without directly undermining strategies they might still need for self-preservation at home. It's often a kind of waiting game for later adolescence.
Waiting for what?
Waiting for the child to start imagining a future outside the family, seeking independence. That future possibility can provide the internal motivation needed to explore and adopt new coping strategies, ones more adaptive for a broader world. It's about building awareness and potential choice, nurturing flexibility without forcing a change that feels unsafe.
Okay, moving now to adolescence, a notoriously unique and turbulent period. And Crittenden argues strongly here that the traditional adult attachment interview, the AI, is the wrong tool for adolescence. Why?
Her reasoning is that teenagers typically aren't economically independent yet, nor have they reached full adult brain maturation, which, again, she argues, continues up to age 35.
And just that crucial clarification again, it was Carol George, not Mary Main, who developed the original AAI, important for accuracy.
Absolute vital clarification, thank you. And it makes sense that a tool for fully mature adults might not capture the unique reality and ongoing shifts of adolescence.
So what new A strategies, the blue ones, emerged specifically in adolescence in the DMM, reflecting these changes and the push for independence?
On the A side, in adolescence, we see compulsively promiscuous, A5, and compulsively self-reliant, A6.
Compulsively self-reliant.
Yeah.
That sounds like extreme independence.
Yes. Adopting this rigid ideology, it's only me, I'll just rely on me, nobody else is trustworthy.
Yeah.
Their identity becomes defined by self-sufficiency, often denying any need for connection or support. And crucially, post-puberty, they often can physically survive alone, reinforcing the strategy.
But there's a hidden cost.
It's a huge one. To experience full sexuality, deep intimacy, form a family, achieve full adult psychosocial development, you fundamentally need others. This strategy prevents integrating relational needs, hindering full adult flourishing.
And the compulsively promiscuous A5 pattern, how does that relate?
The A5 individual often swings between this extreme self-reliance,
Yeah.
A6, and its seeming opposite. They might rapidly form superficial intimate relationships, often sexual, with relative strangers, a fleeting, intense pursuit of connection.
But it doesn't last.
No. They quickly retreat back into rigid self-reliance when their often unrealistic or unacknowledged expectations for deep connection aren't met.
That sounds risky.
Very risky. Depression is common with these compulsive A strategies, especially A5, which carry significant physical and psychological risks from intimacy with unknown or unsafe partners. It's a desperate, self-defeating attempt to connect without true vulnerability, driven by a profound, often unacknowledged attachment need.
And the information distortion here, you mentioned it goes beyond just omission to outright denial. How does that look in A5 and A6?
Yes, for these more advanced A strategies, the distortion is more profound. It often becomes outright denial of information that is plainly obvious to others. They might flatly state, no, that doesn't hurt, I didn't feel pain, no, I'm not frightened, even when context or body language screams otherwise.
Actively denying true causal statements, denying their own experience.
Yes, often with powerful conviction. As Crittenden puts it, the information is there, everybody knows it is denied. It's a profound, often unconscious pathological distortion of reality used for extreme self-protection. Maintaining an internal narrative of invulnerability, self-sufficiency, control, even against overwhelming evidence, building an impenetrable mental wall against painful truths.
So if the standard AII isn't the right tool, how does the DMM assess attachment in adolescence?
They use a specially modified version called the Transition to Adulthood Attachment Interview, TAAI. It carefully retains the core structure, questions, and rigor of Carol George's original AI, crucial for consistency and validity.
But it changes the focus.
It changes the specific examples and probes to be more age-salient for adolescents. Instead of focusing heavily on early childhood, it probes more into current relationships, best friends, romantic partners, teachers, family now, things central to adolescent life.
Making it more relevant to their current experience.
Exactly. And critically, it includes questions like, what have you learned about yourself and your relationship so far? This encourages meaningful, age-appropriate reflection on the complex, evolving relationships they're navigating during that transition to adulthood.
Okay, finally, adulthood. Here, the traditional model does use the AAI. Crittenden acknowledges it's well-validated, but raises limits, right? Like condensing 7 billion people into 4 boxes.
Yes, and her biggest clinical concern is that almost everybody of clinical interest is in the box called You Cannot Classify, which effectively replaced disorganized in some systems.
Meaning many people seeking help are left undifferentiated by that framework, making tailored intervention difficult.
That's the profound clinical challenge. The DMM, in contrast, expands its model significantly to categorize these complex presentations, especially at the extreme ends. On the A side, blue in adulthood, 2 new, very serious strategies emerge reflecting profound information distortion. Delusional idealization, A7, and externally assembled self, A8.
Delusional idealization. That sounds deeply disturbing. What does it involve?
It's one of the most concerning patterns. Crittenden calls it hostage syndrome. Individuals with A7 idealize the very person who endangered them, the person they can't protect themselves from, the source of their fear and trauma.
They idealize their abuser.
Yes.
Yes.
Despite overwhelming evidence of severe abuse or harm, they vehemently deny that information. They refuse to acknowledge the reality of the danger. Instead, they construct elaborate, delusional protective events.
Things that didn't happen.
Things that not only didn't happen, but couldn't have happened. Narratives of intense care, love, protection from the abuser that are factually impossible, contradicting all observable reality. It's a profound pathological distortion for psychological survival, rewriting reality to endure the intolerable by idealizing the tormentor.
A chilling example of the mind protecting itself by sacrificing reality. And the other one, externally assembled self, A8. That sounds like a fragmented identity.
Precisely. The externally assembled self, A8, is not an integrated self. It's like a bunch of things put in one pile compiled entirely from external sources. No cohesive, internally generated sense of self. And critically, Crittenden states this is almost always an iatrogenic pattern.
Iatrogenic, meaning caused by treatment or professionals.
In the starkest terms, yes. She states, in 100% of the cases where I have seen it, we the professionals have created it. A profound self-critique for the helping professions.
That's a huge, sobering claim. How could well-intentioned professionals contribute to that?
It's deeply disturbing. It typically happens when vulnerable children, often in systems like foster care, are moved through multiple homes and seen by many different professionals, therapists, social workers. Each might provide conflicting feedback, different diagnoses, labels, expectations.
Can the child internalizes these fragments?
Yes. Desperate to connect, please, or survive, they internalize these fragmented, often contradictory external views. Over time, they have no self-generated information and has only externally generated information. They might talk about themselves using professional jargon, diagnoses, labels they've absorbed, but without any true internal connection. They've lost their internal compass, becoming a reflection of the system's fragmented perception.
A powerful, deeply disturbing example. The thought that professionals could inadvertently contribute to fragmenting a child's identity is very sobering. It demands self-reflection.
It's a stark warning Crittenden takes incredibly seriously. She even shares her own experience powerfully. She was a foster parent, and through research discovered every foster parent she studied had an unresolved loss of a family member in childhood.
Every single one.
Yes, which led her to realize how her own unresolved loss had affected what I wanted from my foster children, the strategy I used to try to get it. Her own unprocessed needs were unconsciously shaping her interactions. Because of this, she now strongly advocates evaluating foster parents equally to biological parents for unresolved losses, not to pathologize, but for awareness, understanding all losses past, current, anticipated in everyone in the child system is vital, because these can profoundly shape a caregiver's capacity and potentially contribute to patterns like A8.
And briefly, on the C side, green, in adulthood, the DMM includes psychopathy, often labeled AC, combining A and C elements, representing profound difficulties integrating information beyond severe aggression.
Yes, encompassing lack of empathy and pervasive antisocial behavior. And Crittenden is very direct about the clinical challenges with these most extreme patterns, A7, A8, E7, C8, AC. She says, you're in deep water, and I will tell you that is among the disorders that we don't know how to fix. A sober acknowledgement of current treatment limitations.
How does she visualize this severity on the DMM model? You mentioned lines.
Yes. Conceptually, she draws two lines on the circle. A gray line, marking where the probability of psychological disorder starts increasing significantly. She notes, most people who end up in mental health or child protection services fall between the gray line and the black line. These strategies are highly constrained, often causing suffering.
And the black line, what's below that?
Below the black line, at the very bottom, are individuals who are a danger to themselves or to others. The most extreme destructive manifestations. These individuals often need protection, either from themselves or others need to be protected from them, and frequently don't seek help voluntarily because their distorted processing tells them they don't have a problem.
Which leads to her using the term patient.
Yes, deliberately using patient, from Latin pater, to suffer rather than client. It emphasizes their suffering and lack of true agency, especially if treatment is mandated. She says they don't know what services they need, they're not prepared to negotiate. It highlights suffering, acknowledges the power imbalance, and puts more responsibility on the professional.
Okay, so beyond these specific strategies, the DMM also identifies two overarching dimensions that cut across all patterns. Can you explain those? They add another layer to understanding adaptation.
Yes, these two dimensions are really valuable for understanding the underlying processes. They explain how people gather and interpret information. The first is the horizontal dimension, the source of information someone primarily relies on.
Like, are you a spreadsheet person using logic or a gut feeling person using emotion? Is that the idea?
It's an excellent way to think about it. On the A side, blue, people predominantly rely on temporal consequences, logical cause and effect. If I do this, that happens. Prioritizing cognitive information.
Okay.
On the C side, green, people primarily rely on feelings, especially intense negative ones, guided by gut reactions, strong emotions, visceral responses, prioritizing effective and somatic information.
And the balanced person, near B at the top.
Ideally, yes. Able to trust and flexibly integrate both sources, weighing cognitive facts alongside emotional signals. Crittenden explains the further out you go toward the edges of the circle, the more distorted your strategy, and the more rigidly you rely on only one kind of information.
So extreme A excludes negative feelings, extreme C excludes logical consequences.
Exactly. Extreme A strategies systematically exclude negative affect. Extreme C strategies tend to exclude or dismiss temporal contingencies. They don't consistently link actions to predictable outcomes because intense emotion overrides logic.
Makes sense. Leaning too hard one way distorts reality. What's the second dimension?
The second is the vertical dimension, the transformations of information. This explains how much someone actively transforms raw information rather than taking it at face value.
How much they filter or change the incoming data.
Right. It ranges from using true untransformed information at the top near B, what you see feel accurately predicts reality, down to using increasingly transformed, often distorting information as you move towards the bottom, more extreme edges.
What kinds of transformation?
Things like generalizing one bad event means everything is bad, falsifying, actively misrepresenting facts, denying, blocking out painful truths, or even, at the extremes, creating delusional information, fabricating realities for protection.
And people learn these transformations are necessary.
Yes, often out of harsh necessity in dangerous environments. They learn transformed information predicts danger better than the surface information. Think of that example again. Someone smiles tightly when they're actually angry.
Right.
To predict their behavior accurately, you learn you have to predict the opposite of the smile. The smile means danger ranger. The transformation predicting the opposite becomes necessary for accurate prediction and self-protection.
And the DMM doesn't judge these strategies as inherently bad.
No. Crittenden always emphasizes this isn't about moral judgment. Each strategy fits some context. They are viewed as ingenious adaptive solutions, however distorted or painful they seem from the outside.
Okay. So if every strategy fits some context and no single strategy is ideal for every problem, what is the developmental ideal in the DMM? What's the best outcome?
Her answer here is really profound and I think quite liberating. She states clearly, every behavioral strategy is the right strategy for some problem, but no strategy is the best strategy for every problem. We need them all.
We need them all.
Yes. Therefore, the best strategy, the developmental ideal in the DMM, isn't about achieving static security in a perfect world. It's what she calls a mature B, or an earned B. And this ideal isn't defined by the external environment being safe. It's defined entirely by the individual's internal capacity.
Internal capacity, meaning?
Meaning the ability to consciously recognize and use all the transformations of information without getting stuck in any one rigid pattern. It means having the full, flexible repertoire of human strategies available.
So they can consciously choose which strategy to use depending on the situation, even deceptive ones if needed for survival.
Exactly. If faced with an abuser, they might consciously choose a compliant or deceptive strategy for immediate safety. But, and this is crucial, they have the internal flexibility and integrity to return to open, integrated, truthful communication when safety allows.
They don't get stuck in the survival mode.
Right. Crittenden uses herself as an example, saying she knows how to use deception consciously if she finds herself in a dangerous corner, but she can fluidly return to transparent behavior when she's safe again. That illustrates true resilience, adapting effectively to threat without being permanently defined or distorted by that adaptation. They have agency.
That sounds like genuine resilience, adapting without being permanently scarred or rigidified by the adaptation, and the core insight there. A mature bee does not require safety. They require a clear mind. That's huge.
It really resonates, doesn't it? It shifts the focus entirely from external circumstances to cultivating internal clarity, flexibility, freedom of mind.
And she uses Nelson Mandela as an example.
Yes, an incredible example. Someone who can grow up in danger and spend much of his adulthood in prison and come out balanced and mature as a bee because his mind is freed from his developmental past. His external reality was brutal, yet his internal capacity for clear, flexible thinking, for integrating complex realities, remained intact, even grew stronger. His suffering shaped him, but didn't rigidify him.
Which profoundly challenges that common assumption that you need ideal conditions, a good enough childhood, or external safety to achieve psychological health.
It really does. If perfect safety were the prerequisite, she argues, we have condemned most of the world to not being balanced and psychologically secure. The DMM offers real hope that internal transformation and integration are possible even amidst incredibly challenging external circumstances, even growing up in danger or experiencing severe trauma.
This internal freedom is the true mark of resilience.
Exactly. And achieving this mature B state isn't quick. She emphasizes it requires full brain maturation, which, again, she argues continues up to around age 35. That extended time frame allows for the highest levels of cognitive and emotional complexity, nuance, foresight, and conscious choice that characterize the mature bee, mastering all information transformations and choosing strategies based on context, rather than being trapped by rigid automatic patterns.
Wow. Okay, we have covered such an incredible amount of ground today. This deep dive really shows how the DMM provides this profoundly nuanced, context-sensitive, functional understanding of human adaptation, revealing these ingenious, often hidden, self-protective strategies across our entire lives.
It truly does. It powerfully reinforces that core idea. Behaviors we see as problematic, even troubling, might well have originated as ingenious, even life-preserving solutions to past dangers.
And these strategies aren't static, they keep evolving.
Exactly. They become more complex with our own neurological maturation and ongoing experience, shaped by both our brain development and our specific relational and cultural context. This perspective offers, I think, a truly powerful and compassionate lens for understanding why people develop the coping mechanisms they do.
Moving beyond simple labels of healthy, unhealthy.
Yes, towards recognizing this adaptive, complex, sometimes painful, but inherently functional human journey toward survival and connection.
And for you, our listener, maybe especially those in helping professions or just anyone reflecting on their own life, Crittenden offers two really key takeaways in her summation. They feel invaluable, bringing it back to practical wisdom. First, know yourself. You are the tool.
That's fundamental.
She emphasizes that therapists, or really anyone wanting to understand others or navigate life effectively, must first understand their own self-protective strategies, their default A or C ways of handling things, their biases from their own attachment history. Without that self-knowledge, she argues, you can't effectively regulate your own behavior for the patient's needs, nor ethically use yourself as a therapeutic instrument. Self-awareness is paramount.
Know yourself. Absolutely foundational. And her second takeaway is equally profound, a guiding principle for intervention. Worry less about changing behavior and more about changing the way the patient's mind understands information.
Focus on the underlying process, not just the symptom.
Exactly. She emphasizes the brain is constantly organizing behavior right now and for the future, based on its current interpretation of reality and threat. So for lasting change, you have to shift what's happening at the core level, how the brain processes, interprets, transforms information. Behavior is just the output. The real leverage point is that internal operating system, how the mind makes meaning and organizes expectations of safety and danger.
A shift from symptom management to fundamental system change.
Precisely.
Those are truly profound practical insights. And it leaves us, and you listening, with a final provocative thought to maybe mull over. Given this comprehensive synthesis of attachment theory, its diverse patterns, adaptive functions, lifelong dynamics, how might this expanded understanding empower you? How might it help you navigate the complexities of human connection with greater insight, empathy, maybe even wisdom?
Does recognizing that ingenious hidden logic in various coping strategies, that idea that behaviors we judge harshly might have been brilliant solutions to past dangers, does that shift your perspective at all?
It's something powerful to reflect on. How our own ingrained strategies, even the ones causing trouble now, likely originated as ingenious solutions. It's a powerful reframe, offering a path to greater understanding of ourselves and others.
It really is.
Our deep dive into the synthesis and future directions of attachment theory continues.
Yes. Please join us next time for Part 12. Future Directions in Attachment Research. We'll delve into the critical unresolved issues and the priorities for the field moving forward.
We'll see you then.